Write down what you love about yourself right now. All the great things about you right now, write them down. Hey guys, Vicky Lemons here and welcome to my channel. If you are new, welcome. And if you are returning, welcome back. I am truly so glad to have you here. So in this video, we're going to talk about my time as a military wife. If you don't know, I was a military wife for many, many years. It was a huge chunk of my life. And I had a really interesting run as a military wife. But in this video in particular, I'm going to talk about what I learned, because being a military spouse in general is completely separate than being just a regular wife. And I don't mean regular as in one is better or higher. They are just completely different. And it would be almost like if someone said that they were the wife of a professional athlete. That lifestyle is completely different than the lifestyle of a regular marriage. Military spouses are different than just regular marriage. Not better, not less, just different. So, I've been married for 22 years. My husband retired after almost 21 years in the service in the Army. And we actually got engaged when he was already in the military for a few years. He was a specialist. He started his career off enlisted, and then he went into a program where he commissioned into an officer. But this video, we're going to talk about my time as a military spouse. And at 19, I got married. And this is when my journey as a military spouse started. I had a really great run. I was about 17 years as a military spouse. And we lived, I think it was about 8 or 9 different places in that time frame. 2 deployments, 2 back-to-back deployments my husband went through. So he deployed from 2008 to 2009, and then from 2010 to 2011. So yeah, that was an interesting part of my life. But I'm just going to get into some things that I've learned during my time as a military spouse. And one thing I've noticed about the resilience of military spouses is that we all have our own stories. We all have our own pros and cons. But because we're also multicultural and diverse, we understand that what one person experienced it may not be what the other person experienced. This is just my experience as a military spouse. And for that, at that time, a military spouse for 17 years. My husband's been retired for about 5 years now. So that's wonderful. So, but my time was 17 years, and this is what I've learned. Number one, we learned to be connected. My husband and I, we learned that, remember, we're young. We're 19 and 21 when we got married. So we grew up together, not only in our marriage, but just as kids, right? And so now not only are we kids, but we're kids and we live in a different state. My first duty station was in Fort Benning, Georgia with my husband. And we didn't have any children, and we wouldn't have any children for about 7 years. And so what it taught us is to stay connected in the sense that we had each other's back. We were our only family. We built such a strong bond over the years. It's why, you know, and I think our connection developed because we only had each other. We didn't have family around. We didn't have friends around. We didn't have anybody in our business. We kept our business to ourselves. We were together the whole time. We were just very connected. We were truly just friends and we formulated a family together with just him and I. We didn't have anyone else to rely on. We didn't have an in-law's house to go to for holidays. We didn't have a parent's house to go to if we were mad at each other or whatever. We had to stick it out. We had to work it out, and we had to do it with each other, with no one else involved. And so I really believe that we are as connected as we are because of our military time, us being away from everyone and not having people all in our business, and us having to figure things out together without anyone in our business, us relying on each other and us depending on each other, because we only had each other. So I think that that was a positive, that I believe that's something that I truly learned as a military spouse. Another thing I learned is a respect for the service. You know, when you don't live in a military town, you don't understand how much soldiers sacrifice. You don't understand how precious life is when it comes to service, when it comes to these men and women give their lives. They leave their children, they leave their spouses, they leave their parents, they leave to go to college, to have money to go to college, to serve their country, whatever their reasoning is why they do it. And once they join, it's not about them anymore. It's really a selfless service, whether they're enjoying their journey or not. It's selfless service, and I'm thankful that I get to not only have been a part of that in a positive way, but also that I appreciate and that I've developed an appreciation for servicemen and women. And my children are military brats, and there's a certain resilience that come with just the military lifestyle and families, the ones who really stick it out and push forward and honor their soldier. I really established a great appreciation for the service and just what it represents and its soldiers. So that was something else that I've learned as a military spouse. Another thing I've learned as a military spouse is life is really precious. We have had multiple friends that we were literally, you know, hanging out with, partying. You know, we were young. Remember, we were young. And they went to Iraq or they went to Afghanistan and they didn't make it back home. And when things like that hit close to home, because your military family is like your family. You get plucked away from your family, pushed into another area, arena, right? Another state, another country. And the people you surround yourself with every day become like your family. And so when you lose a fellow soldier or you lose, you know, someone close to you from your military family, it's like you're losing family. And it just makes you appreciate life, because here are these soldiers giving their lives for whatever their why is. They're there. And it just makes me appreciate life even more. So the next thing is, our family is so close. My husband, myself, and my two children, and our two children. We are so close. And that goes back to number one, when I was saying about being connected. It was just always us four. When it was just me and my husband, it was just me and my husband. We just rolled out. If he was there and I was there, it's all we needed. Then my son came along 7 years later after we were married. And it was just us three. And then my daughter 3 years after that. And it's just been us four. And even now, we just really enjoy being together as a family. And I believe that is because we always just had each other. Back to that number one. The way my husband and I grew to be so connected, our family is that way. And I really truly attribute that to our time as a military family, because every 2-3 years, maybe at the max 4, we were moving around and starting over. And it was just us. And we would pack up all our stuff, pets included, and we would just go. And as long as we were all safe and together, we would be in that car for hours and hours, just traveling from one side of the country to the next. Just us. And as long as we knew we were safe, we were cool. As long as we were together, we were cool. My time as a military spouse definitely has been a contributing factor to that connection. We just appreciate being together. We appreciate family. We appreciate our bond. The next thing is, I don't mind being alone. And my husband was always gone. Like the first 7 years of our marriage, he was always there. Like he just did his normal military job. And it felt like as soon as we had children, he was gone. But even when he was there in that first 7 years before he got married, even in that first 7 years before we had children, his job always kept him away for long hours. So I never had a problem going to the movies by myself, going to dinner by myself, whatever. I always go shopping, and I'm still that way. I don't mind doing anything by myself because I learned to be that way. Every time we would move around somewhere, it was just me and him, and if he's working, it's just me. So I learned to be okay with being by myself, and I'm still that way to this day. I don't mind meeting up with people, but I'm cool by myself. I love being with my family, but I like my alone time too. And that's something that being a military spouse has taught me. It's cool to be alone. It's cool to be by myself. I'm okay. I'm not codependent. I don't need to be with anyone, but I love to be around my family. But if they're gone and they're busy and they're doing things, or if I feel like I just need some chill time and I want to go, I'll go to the movies by myself. I'll go get something to eat by myself. I don't need to have someone there with me to enjoy anything, because at the end of the day, if the children were in school and my husband was deployed, it's just me. So, and I was a stay-at-home mom for 11 years. So I had to do something with my time, right? So on to the next. With learning to be alone at times, I had to also learn to parent alone. And one thing that I took pride in as someone who had to parent by herself, I didn't have to parent financially by myself, but I had to do the day-to-day by myself a lot of the time. And one thing I always pride myself in is that I always tried to include my husband in everything. I always, even if he was gone, I would include him in on what we were doing, and found that to be an opportunity to continue to keep my husband involved. He would record himself reading stories to the children. We would play those at nighttime for bed, instead of me just reading, you know, things like that. But learning to parent alone was something that I just got good at. And even now, like my husband now is a high school counselor, when he's at work or when he's away or whatever, I'm just not one of those wives that's like, I need help with the kids. I got it. Like, I got it. The whole household, honestly, I had to step back when my husband retired, especially because we get used to running the household the way we want to run it as spouses. But with the children, if he's, I got it. I don't need him to help, but I do want him to help, and I do try really hard to make sure he's always a part of stuff, because that's important too for your partner to feel. But the one thing I learned to do is I learned to just parent alone, and but not only just parent alone with my soldier in mind, so that when he reintegrated with our family, he didn't feel so left out. They're going to feel a little left out, but I tried to make it I tried to make the transition as comfortable as possible for when he did come back home. I loved the culture. It's such a different culture. Being a military spouse, meeting so many different people from so many walks of life, seeing how families run, you know, I loved it. Military people are a special breed. I would say 90% of the time, your communities are very kind and loving, and the kids play outside, and it's just a different world. It really is a different type of world, and I'm so thankful that I got a chance to be a part of such a wonderful, wonderful community life, family oriented. The military is, believe it or not, I don't know, it's very family oriented, and there was always things for families to do, and there was always sports for the kids to play, and there was just always some sort of support, and I loved that. I loved that there was always support. So that's the stuff that I learned as a military spouse. It's not all the stuff, obviously. I could go on forever. I had such a great time as a military spouse. There were highs, there were lows. There's some things that need their own videos, But those are just some of the takeaways that are more on the positive side of what I learned as a military spouse. But maybe I'll do a different video with some of those things. But these are just the main things that stuck out to me in a more positive light of what I gained and how I think it helped me grow. You know, my husband and I, we grew up in military life. He was 21 when we got married. He was 18 when he joined, and he was 39 when he retired. He grew up in military life, and I was 19 when we got married. And you know, I'm 42 now. He retired 5 years ago. So we grew up in military life, and we pulled a lot away from it. But we also went through a lot. We also went through deployments. We went through miscarriage. We went through alcohol dependencies. We partied hard, man. But those things need their own individual videos. In this video, I just wanted to shed some light on the positive ways that being a military spouse has kind of helped me and helped me develop into the person that I am today, the person that brings you these messages. And shout out to my military spouses, because man, we are a resilient, brave, courageous, strong bunch. And to those military children, you are resilient. And to my servicemen and women, I am so thankful for your service, and I pray that God continues to cover you in everything that you do and your family. As always, guys, I thank you so much for watching. God bless.